Welcome back to another episode of Rethink Real Estate. Today's another Julia episode, and for those that have listened in previously, you understand that when it comes to the Julia episodes, we dive deeper into the mental set, and today's mental set is picking your heart, really, because we believe that the real estate marketplace is going to be tougher for a lot longer than all of us want and actually expected, and making the decision that you are going to be here, regardless of what the marketplace says, is a critical element to the survival in the real estate space for the future. I hope this really helps and you enjoy the episode. It was a really interesting conversation for me. I was very curious about the side of the real estate space when people aren't picking and aren't choosing to actually make a decision that you're going to stay here, regardless of the marketplace. So this really did help me in that conversation and has helped me have the discussion with multiple agents. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Rethink Real Estate. Julia Gentry, ladies and gentlemen. Julia, great to have you.
It's always good to be here.
What's been going on? Like, I feel like, because we're trying to do once a month that we're doing this mental set sort of mind shift, sort of, all those things, growth coach, 101, trying to add that perspective into the podcast. And it's been a little while, but one of the reasons it's been a little while, I feel like there's this energy and there's this little bit of a blowing up perspective of the Julia Gentry brand. Do we have the next Tony Robbins on our hands here? And
man, you just said it. Let's go. Come on, Tony Robbins, keep up.
I need this because then I've discovered it early. The Ben girls can take full claim that they met you well before me, but that's bullshit. Okay.
So good. Life is so good. It is. We are the Julia Gentry brand. We've hired 2 more people in the last couple of months. We have a director of digital growth, and then we have a director of our academy. And we're just we're at that point of growth, just from a digital marketing perspective. Our events that are coming up, the content, it's working. You and I know that it's working, but now it's starting to take on like a more massive growth. And so I'm just hanging on for dear life.
Well, I think that there's definitely some genuine purpose from you that's been pushed into this, regardless of whether you do things or it's just your general mindsets around it for a very, very long time, and the effort's there. So it's wonderful to see it sort of just, kick into gear. Because it's kind of like one of those things that if it didn't, you'd lose a lot of faith in just how life works in general. That if somebody put that much effort in and that much strategic effort and they're that good at it, that if it didn't come off, you're like, oh, fuck this. Like, really? Like, what are we all doing here?
Well, and I think that's, and we're going to talk a lot about this today, just even around like, how do you do the hard things in good times and in bad times, right? And I think one of the things that I've learned, Ben, is you cannot be making decisions at your high and you cannot be making decisions at your low. If I'm making decisions at my high, I will ultimately self-sabotage, right? Like every high moment, I'm like, yes, this will take me, I will do this forever. I will conquer the world and we will always be on the top. And then all of a sudden you start to come back down and you go, oh, that's not actually reality. And I can't take over the world and I can't do all of the things all times, and the markets change. And right. So if I'm making decisions only on the best days, it's actually not sustainable. And I will tend to self-sabotage it because my internal world and my external world are not in alignment. Equally so, on my worst days, if I start making decisions on those days, then obviously what we're going to do is we're just going to continue to repeat habits and patterns that we don't want more of. And so I've honestly, for the last 6 years, day in and day out, made decisions based upon where I was going, doing my best not to make them at the high, not to make them at the low, knowing that the only thing that I'm accountable to is the vision that I have for this company. And so now today, when people are like, oh, it's working, that must be nice. You're like, no, I've been planting these seeds and I've been preparing every single day leading up to these moments. And now it's just, we're learning how to hold the weight of the blessing. People think it gets easier when you get blessed, but it's heavy.
Well, first of all, I just want to say congratulations, and I expected it, so I really am not that surprised. But ultimately, is that it's just wonderful to see. But I'm going to dive deep into a question that's just sort of come up from what you're saying here, from a perspective of making decisions, and then we'll get into the whole purpose of today. Is that Do you think that people that don't make decisions to grow and all of it, like I don't know how to frame this up properly, but do you think that, you spoke about highs of highs and lows of lows. Do you think people's baseline of lows or their baseline of just in the middle is lower than others? So therefore they're the people that aren't sort of making decisions to grow, or that they're scared to make a decision? Or do you
Mhm.
think that people have to check their baseline from the perspective of high to high, low to low, what's in between?
Yeah, I think that well, for most people, we're motivated by two factors, pain or pleasure. And I think that the majority of people also have a negativity bias in general, right? So when the good is good, at like everybody can be making like good decisions. But what happens is that when the bad starts to be bad, or the hard gets hard, I think that's better. It's not bad, it's just hard. Is that actually when I'm making decisions for my peak moment, I'm making them it's like almost cheap. It's just cheap decision making because everything is great. And so, of course, I'm happy and nothing could go wrong. And that has nothing to do with character, that has to do with ego. And so, when we see massive shifts or things change or the market looks different or we kick into quote unquote a hard gear. I think what we thought was good character before is now just being tested, and it's revealing, oh, it's actually not character, that was ego. And so it starts to test our belief systems, right? So let's even just dive in directly around the market, because I think this is really important to be talking about right now. And I was talking to Travis about this podcast because I'm like, what do I say? What do I say in this market now that we're like, this is just it's so bizarre. And Travis and I have been through all the real estate markets too. I mean, we started in 2007. And
Mm,
so we were here in one of the times that it felt like, the most climactic times in real estate. But I have a lot of friends who've been in the real estate market just in the last 10 years. And so for the last 10 years, if you've been in the real estate market, it's been just a slow, growth, grow, 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 grow. We've had all growth, right? So even if you've been in the marketplace longer than 10 years, it's been a decade of growth. Now, here we are starting to see this thing turn, which history repeats itself and there's patterns. And so, what we're starting to see this turn, and we're starting to see interest rates go up and prices are starting to go down, and the market is kind of stalling. And so, I think we could all easily say, well, it's going to be fine. It'll turn around. It'll be fine. That's actually not the way that history works. It's
mm.
just going to go back. Like it doesn't go back that fast. It's starting to correct itself. And my husband says this all the time, that our market cycles are like a pendulum, which means it goes up and then it's going to go down and then it will go back up again, but it's got to go down. It doesn't just kind of it doesn't kind of drip and then go back up. It is a pendulum. That's what our
Mm.
market cycles do. And so it was just fascinating talking about it from a non-emotional perspective. And this is where I think we have to start, is that when you talk about it from a non-emotional perspective, you have some facts and context that will help you make aligned decisions, right? If I'm on the roller coaster of the highs and the lows, I love it when it's high. I hate it when it's low. I love it when it's high. I hate it when it's low, and that's why we're riding the emotional roller coaster as opposed to going, wait a minute, if I can just look at what's happening from more of a factual, contextual perspective, then I can make a decision that is aligned with where I'm going, not just being on the roller coaster. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Aligned where you're going. I think that that's one of the things that I just want to just pause, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that, from the context of what you're giving us, the reality is there's ups and downs, but there's this line in the middle that always has to be there where you need to know where you're going.
Correct.
And where you and I sort of had a discussion before the podcast around what we're going to talk about today is that I think that let's be vulnerable for a minute, in the perspective of we are not the all-knowing. We have no idea. I don't have any idea. And like I've been interviewing all this week some of the most, some people that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars from an asset perspective, all the way down to people that are just in residential real estate. Nobody has a good answer. Everybody is guessing. But there's a lot of indicators that the next 18 months to 2 years, even up to 10 years, that we're going to be dealing with stagnation over the long term, but also that it doesn't look like transaction volume is going to go up. And the prices can go up, they can go down, and that'll be fueled by, supply and demand. But when transaction volumes are this low, it's a hard time. It's a hard time for the bottom 80% of the marketplace that doesn't have market share. And I think at the moment we have to lean into the hard. We have to be prepared for the hard. And if it doesn't turn up to be that hard, or we've managed our expectations enough that we've thought it was going to be worse than what it is, then that's okay. But I think that that's where we have to sort of prepare ourselves, and we all have to prepare ourselves for, from a mental perspective, that this is going to be uphill. The incline on the treadmill is at 2 or 3. It might go to 4, and it's going to stay there for a pretty long period of time.
Mhm.
So we've just got to keep sucking them in and keep one step at a time.
Well, and I think you're making a good point that I think is easy to understand at a head level. But so when we say, okay, don't make decisions at your high, don't make decisions at your low, but make decisions based upon really where you're going, which is called alignment. That's also called vision. What does that mean? It means that I have a greater reason for being in real estate than just making money, right? So if I've been in this market for the last 10 years, knock on wood, like you've done good year after year after year. Like generally speaking, most people have increased revenue almost every single year for the last 10 years, right? Then we had this anomaly of the last couple of years where you're like, I mean, people were seeing 3, 4, 5xing of the revenue. Now, when you go, okay, so then it's really easy to go, I'm doing this for the money because we all love to make money. That's why we're in real estate. Like we love numbers, we love people, we love money. But we have to ask ourselves what happens in the long game when I'm making a decision based upon where I'm going is it starts to separate the people who really have the purest intention of going where they're wanting to go versus those who just want to do it for ego reasons or for the money. So even when you ask me, Julia, how is it that you have sustained some of the hard that I've been through in these last 6 years is because I just decided there's no place else that I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So even on the days that I'm like, what if this doesn't work? It's never been well, I'll just go work for Ben or I'll just go do something else. It's no, this is what I'm doing. So there's got to be another way to get to that finish line.
So the first thing in all of this then, is it make sure you're committed to what you're doing? Like
totally.
Like tell yourself, like regardless of whether it's a good or a bad market, I am in real estate. I will be in real estate. This is what I like to do. This is what I'm going to do, regardless of $1 million or $50,000 a year. This is what I'm set to do.
Correct. That has to be number one. Is you've got to decide. This is what I'm doing. And so, do you remember at your summit when Evie spoke, Evie Pomporis?
Yeah, Evie Pomporis.
What she said stuck with me forever is that, here she is in the Secret Service.
Sorry. Evie.
Evie. I always say Evie. It's
Me too.
Evie. Thank you. Oh, Evie.
So about 5 minutes before I went on stage, like to introduce her, someone goes, like her assistant was there and she's like, well, Evie. I'm like, sorry, who?
Oh, totally.
Evie. I'm like, hang on a second. I was just about to introduce her as Evie. You're kidding me, right?
You just changed my life. Oh my gosh. So Evie, this cute little 5'1", says, Secret Service, she goes, that's our goal at the end of this. And so before we literally walk into the most dangerous scenario, she says, we know our goal. And then we don't think of 500 different exit strategies. There is one strategy and it's to hit that target. However, she had, for example's sake, 17 different ways to get there. And she said that the minute you flexed and you wanted to control the situation or you wanted it to be a certain way, you're dead. You and I right now, we're talking financial death, emotional death, spiritual death. She's talking about literal death. If we flex, we're dead. But if we know that that is our target and we believe so much in that target, then I've got to flow to be able to get myself to that target. Same thing when I'm going to commit in good days and in hard days is I have to be so committed to where I'm going. And then the second piece to this, Ben, is then I have to count the cost, which means that's where I'm going to go. So on good days, I'm going to make hay. On bad days, I'm going to prepare. I'm going to lean in. I'm going to lift till failure. I'm going to take market share. I'm going to do hard things. I'm going to keep going. I have to give up my ego. I may have to downsize. I may have to double down in my investments. I may have to take more risks. I have to actually count the cost. So when I'm actually counting the cost, I don't go, and panic. It was part of the plan.
So you've brought up physical death and now you've led me into it. This is great because it's been a big thought that's been going around in my head just recently. I read a book called The Comfort Crisis and I actually read the book. Okay. That's the first thing. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back publicly because I read it, because your book is one of the ones that I've actually physically read. And then also this one, it's like, I think I've read like 10 books in my life because it just takes me so long, but I've made a commitment now. No social media. I'm just going to read when I think about social or getting on social media.
Does that include TikTok? Does that mean you're not scrolling on TikTok?
So
6 a.m.
I haven't been on TikTok for I don't know, about a month. So
Yes. Oh
so
my God,
yeah,
that's
so
amazing to
getting rid
me.
of that. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Anyway, still one of the most entertaining things, like
No, no.
dopamine hit. Just
It's horrible, you guys. The day that I found out that Ben was doing that, I was like, "Oh, you're doing your closet TikToking? Oh my word!"
oh, it's so good. But either way, I guess that the thing that caught me off guard in this book, it's a gentleman who goes into Alaska for a month, and he talks about basically along the experience or the discomfort, and that we have become too comfortable as a society in many different attributes. And one of the things in one of the sectors that he goes down into that I found so surprising, they did a study on the happiest cultures in the world. And most of them are Buddhist cultures, because in the Buddhist religion, they actually bring up and they have death at the forefront of absolutely everything they do. They teach it in school. You know, if someone dies in their society, the body spends a month with them in the house. Like it's like the kids see it. You know, they speak about death every single day, and they refer to it as a cliff, and that they know they're going towards a cliff. And where I'm going with all of this is that, Julia, we're talking about like making sure that you've made a decision to do this, and like you're going to commit to the journey that you're on. You've got to have the end in mind as well. Is that how much foresight you have to have in order to be there, like, or to have complete happiness or complete fulfillment, is to actually have the end in mind? And that end isn't retirement. That end isn't just you stopping the things you do. The end is you physically going in the ground or
Mhm,
being spread wherever you're going to spread whatever your belief is.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the best exercises I did, and I've had many people do this when they're coaching with me, is write your obituary. Right at the end of your life, write what it is that you want to be said about you, and then you've got your a job is to work backwards off of that. And sure, will there be like, look at all the money he made, or look at the business he made, or the industry he changed? Sure, like you can have some of that, but a lot of times it has very little to do with that and more to do with your character. But what you're able to do is you're actually able to focus on what matters most. And then the idea here, Ben, is especially because, well, then you got to get logical, and we are in the real world, and I'm not dead yet, and I'm not doing my obituary. But I think that the problem, and you and I have talked about this a lot every single time we connect, is that real estate, quote unquote. Well, here's what I would say: we all believe that you can make money in any real estate market, which is the beautiful thing about real estate. You just have to understand the market cycles, and you got to be in front of it. Right now, the second thing is that at first it's an easy entry point, and it's quote unquote most of the time easier to make money. So a lot of times people get into this to make money, or a lot of it, right? But the problem is that that's not motivating enough to get you out of bed on the hard days. So here we are in a turning chapter that is going to be hard for people, and money is not always going to be the most motivating factor, which is why you're going to see a lot of people leave the real estate market, because they never were anchored into that reason for doing it.
Hmm.
So what I would say to those people is then don't duplicate that in another industry. Go find something that you can passionately lose yourself in, no matter the market cycles or your highs or lows, that you're doing it because you can't not do it. You do it for the love of the game. It's not a message that our world publicizes, because you're either got, go do something as fast as possible and be the next person who blows up on social media, all the way to like make as money as fast as you possibly can. But there isn't this voice around like, all of us are wired and designed to do something that only we can do, and it's your job to figure out what is that, and then how do you serve that value to the most amount of people. That's where purpose, passion, revenue, like that's the magic, that's the secret sauce right there.
Can I push back on that a little?
Yeah.
Do you don't have to love what you do? Do you just have to decide that you're doing it?
Well, I think that there's a couple things. So back to that morbid point. Here you and I are, and we've got, the majority of the hours spent in our lifetime will be our working hours.
Hmm.
So I've always wondered, why in the world would you spend the majority of your life doing something that you don't love? At the end of your life,
Yeah.
then what was the point of that?
I just, I think you're in a great place that you love what you do. You've made that decision. I have sort of formatted in default to sort of stay on the peripheral edge of what I loved to do. And what I mean is that there's no question that I love to list, sell, do deals. There's no question about that. But there's a higher calling that I think that there's a I don't know, a wetland that I've got to go through in order to get to that higher calling. And part of that is the management of what I'm doing at the moment and the building of what we're building.
Correct.
And there's going to be times where you do things that you're not exactly falling in love with, like the political nature of what I deal with on a day-to-day basis, all of that stuff. But I think that people can, they can fall. What is it? I'm trying to use different words here, and they're not coming to me very well. But they can get too idealistic in the perspective of they've got to love what they do. Like, for example, I love restaurants. I love that sort of, but I'm not going to turn around and be a restaurant critic tomorrow. Like, I just don't. That wouldn't fulfill me
But
from
that's
other
the
parts of my
answer.
life.
So I think part of what you have to do is we'd almost have to double click on some of these words. So when I say doing something that you're passionate about, if you look at any athlete, and we're going to use any athletes, any all-star, anyone who set a record, anyone who's defied the odds. I mean, we're going to take a real big example because sometimes those are the easiest to highlight. The in-between is not easy. Like, to become the expert, to become the best at your craft is not because you're like, oh, I love doing push-ups every day, or I want to shoot a basketball 3,000 times a day, or I want to write 20,000 words to get a half of a chapter every single. It has the in-between is not easy or glamorous, and you don't always feel passion when you're doing it. I love writing, but when I wrote my book, I didn't feel passionate doing my book. I had to learn on some of those days going, this is really hard and this is not convenient, and I'm not making money when I'm writing this book. But then so you have to reconnect to, where am I going? Well, I want to be impacting millions of lives, not hundreds, not thousands, millions. Well, when I started writing the book, Ben, I had like 500 followers on Instagram, and we still don't have that many followers. Why? But we're still en route to where? A bigger dream, and I know my lane. Now, if you rewind, you forget, I've been in the real estate industry. I've been in intern placement industry. I've been in property management. I've been in roofing. I've been in business coaching. I've been in growth coaching. And now so every step along the way, is leading us to that. I don't like that. And so some of this is learning all the things that you and I talk about the principles of growth, and realizing when ego is in the way, when the limiting beliefs are in the way, when we're looking at hard from this angle of it's bad or you're doing something wrong. I mean, there's so much here to unpack.
So can I frame it differently then? Because like I'm thinking of a few different examples. Is that love the core parts of what you do? Like love the core parts of what you do. And let me frame this out to you. Is that, let's say you're a basketball player, you love playing basketball, or you love certain moments within playing basketball, but you've got to, if you're a professional athlete and you're a professional basketball player, take Steph Curry, for example. He's got to do the press conferences. He's got to do all the training camps. He's got to do the team building. He's got to do all the stuff in between that to get to the actual court.
Yep.
And to actually perform and play and have that loving experience. There's those things on the edges that in essence are always going to be part of it. You don't have to be so idealistic that you love every single aspect of every single day.
That's exactly what you're talking about. Even with this comfort crisis, is that's what we think. Like, we all think that that's what life should look like, and we're forgetting that it's those hard things that keep us humble, and it's the rough edges that keep us, in theory, on point, right? But it's that passion and that picture of where we're going that gets you through those. And then I think the beautiful thing about being in business, outside of being a crafts person, right, or an all-star, right, or athlete, is in business, the idea here is that we should be able to outsource our weaknesses or some of the things that actually do drain us. If we're building strategically, we should be able to outsource those. The best part about having your own real estate business too, when you said, well, the 80% don't have market share, our market share, especially as real estate agents, is your people. And a lot of time, I'm talking agent after agent right now. I'm like, have you been making calls these last 3 years? No. Okay. Are you making calls currently? No. What are you doing? They're making a plan for a plan, or they're thinking of a different strategy, or they're just not getting back to the basics of what their market share is, which is just recent and frequent, recent and frequent, recent and frequent. Now, are they going to your point, are they going to have as many deals? Probably not, because again, we're coming off of this anomaly. So that's hard to digest and swallow, but there's still deals happening. And it's generally the ones who their market share isn't market share. Their market share is, I'm just going to be recent and frequent, and I'm going to call and I'm going to call and I'm going to do this. Why? Because I love people and I love the game. I
Yeah.
love people and I love the game. So I'll be here now, I'll be here in 5 years, and I'll be here in another 5 years, studying the trends, riding the train, and I'll be making decisions based upon where I'm going, not just where I was and where I think we're going to be.
Can we make some assumptions?
Yeah.
We'll just throw it out there.
That's
What do
my
you think?
favorite.
What,
Yeah.
what do you think you have to love to be in real estate? Do you have to because there's a lot of people in real estate that don't love people, and cut the shit for a moment. Like if those that are listening, I know that most of the people that listen here, there's a great deal of people that take pleasure in saying that they don't like people. So I know that that's not the driving force of some people doing this. Is it the ease of entry? Is it the large gratification at the end of a deal? Is it pulling a deal together? Like some people genuinely love helping people, in their situations. Is it the change that they're addicted to? Like what are the things that you think someone has to be in love with that makes up being able to be in this business for a sustained period of time? You've
So
seen
I
enough
would,
of it.
yeah. So we'll talk real tactical and we'll unpack one that most people think that they know. But if you think about a mission statement should say three things. What do you do?
Hmm.
Who do you do it for? And what is the emotional response you give them to their problem?
Okay.
Right. So with Travis, I remember when we were back in real estate the first 3-4 years, his favorite thing to do was to solve the unsolvable problems. So we had very much our niche was we help people who were facing short sales overcome problems that you think there's no answer to. That was our market. That's why we had market share. I mean, we were managing
Yeah.
50 to 60 short sale files because we knew what we were doing and we knew the emotional response we wanted to give people. So, what I would say to that is for anyone in this market, you have to be able to own this answer, not what you want the public to say, but what you can honestly say that what is it that you do that nobody else can do? Not just, well, I sell real estate. No, 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 no. It's called a unique value proposition, which means what is it that Ben Brady, right? That XYZ, Mr. Smith, what can you do that nobody else can do like you? Who do you do it for? And what is the emotional response that you give them? If you can land on that and actually own that it's your truth, then you will take market share because the market will find out if you're telling the truth or not. People who are like, no, I love helping people. There's a crap ton of people who need to be helped right now. And if you're at home and you can't pick up the phone, you actually don't really care about helping people.
So true.
Do you know what I'm saying? Or people are like, well, I just want to make everybody happy. No, that's fear. That's
It's
called
like, no, I
fear.
love helping people that fall in my lap.
Totally. You're like, no, that actually is not about other people. That's about you. And that's okay. Like, I'm not blame, shame, guilting, but I'm like, these revelations are so massive because I've talked to a lot of the agents who are like, well, I just love making sure people are happy. I'm like, no, that's actually called people pleasing, which is built in fear. And you won't help anybody because it's about you. It's not actually about them. So when you actually are able to be selfish for just a minute and go, I love solving the most unsolvable problems, or I love putting together the hardest to do deals, or I love to help, women in crisis, or I love the results of, I love doing the most results in the quickest amount of time. That's your process person, right? Those are your script people. But when you land on that, you're starting to find your unique value proposition, your niche market. And then we go, well, what does that niche market want most that you can do? When you land on that and it's true, that's what becomes sustainable.
Yeah. It could be, it also could be in real estate. I love the freedom in the real estate industry that I can do this amount of business and then I don't have to do a lot of business for a period of time. And then I can, again, if you can, a lot of people that I've seen the happiest in real estate, like not are the high flying producers that are bringing in so much money. It's actually the people that really embrace the fact that I'm going to do 3 or 4 deals. I'm going to make $100,000. Then I'm not going to work for a little while and then I'm disappear. And then I'm going to come back and I'm okay with, getting back on the side, on the bike and building it back up again, doing 3 or 4 deals, and then I disappear again. Like I see those people really actually pretty comfortable. The ones that are, yes, I'm on vacation for 3 months because I had a good couple of months. Like it's embracing and not trying to pretend that you're doing something that you're not doing, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I think what you're speaking to is, freedom is a choice.
Mm.
That's all that freedom is. It's not more money in the bank. It's not, well, when I get there, then I will. It's always recognizing that I have a choice. So the people who are most free realize that whatever happens to them, they actually get to respond and have a choice as to, oh, which way am I going to take this now? And so if we are not feeling free, it's because you are not consciously choosing, and you either feel like A, the world is happening to you, which you and I both know that's not the case, or B, you're just not being conscious enough to go, what do I want here? I get to choose. Yeah, I was funny because I follow this gal. She is one of the biggest voices right now in the church world. She's probably got 1.5 million followers on Instagram, which is not normal. She's probably 47 years old, hysterical, loud. I mean, just the best thing. I just watch her all the time. But she just posted something today because her success is an anomaly in this industry. She said her life was falling apart at the age of 37 years old. She didn't even start her ministry until she was 40. She didn't post on social media or even read or write a book until she was 42 years old. Her point was, you are never too old or too late to start. And I think that that's also what I think we have to realize, is that sometimes in the real estate industry, we just do it because what we've always done. It doesn't mean it's what you have to keep doing. Right? Or you've lost the passion, but it is the thing that you want to be doing. That doesn't mean you can't find it again. Right? So I think at any point in time is to realize that the best day to have started was yesterday or 30 years ago, and the next best is today. And so I think as we look at this next market, it's not asking, oh, well, how do we just sustain it? It's how do I do the hard well? That's the question we need to be asking ourselves. It's like getting into the gym. I'm not going to look for the path of least resistance and expect to have the smoking hot body when I walk out. I'm going to walk in and I'm going to do push-ups to the point of failure, not because I want to, but because I know what it's going to make me. I know who it's going to make me. So I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to do the push-ups. And if you can't stand the heat, get out of the fire. So at some level, you just got to go, all right, I want to do the hard well.
But
I
it
want to
also
look better.
but it also leads to that point from a fitness perspective, is that, like it's one of the things that I'm a little bit passionate about at the moment. Like, I'm deep into the fitness world, like just listening to a whole bunch of different people. And it's funny, the people that are body image conscious, okay, that are trying to build to a certain image, they're the ones that fall off the scales completely, like jump on, jump off, the fad pretenders. Where the other people that, the people that you see in the gym, or the people that you see in the fitness world, or the people that are the marathon runners, whatever, nothing to do with images there. It's just all about feeling better. Having that purpose from a fitness perspective. And it's so long term. Like, some of the best people now, and it might be a little faddish, they're like, well, I want to live until I'm 100. I want to live until I'm over 100. I want to be able to do push-ups when I'm 100. I want to be able to get off the floor unassisted when I'm 100. And they're not doing, no, I'm going to do back today because, I want a sexy back. I want to do chest today because I want a big chest. They're more so looking at that, just such a long-term perspective, to make this something that is sustainable. You and I have spoken a lot about sustainability, consistently sustainable,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that sustainable approach to things that they look at. And it just sort of really resonates with what we're talking about today. One, making a decision that you're going to be in real estate, and I'm going to be in real estate for the rest of the time, regardless of how good or bad it is. I'm going to be here. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is the end goal, is that I'm going to be here. And then maybe looking a little bit further, opening up the peripheral to being like, no, I'm not leading to a capital event or this much money in the bank or whatever it is. Because so many people, their timeline is just to that. Like, it's just to retirement. It's just to a certain amount of money in the bank. It's just to that. And that will never get you that level of fulfillment. It's maybe stretch that goal as that, what does the obituary say?
Yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, I think that sustainability in this is it's just we're shifting gears, right? And so that's always hard, no matter whatever industry you're in. But I think one of the things, even talking to your physical fitness term, because I think that's so huge, is that I forever had, I needed sustainable energy. So I would work out because I needed energy to last, especially being a mom and running a business and all of those things. But what I started to realize is that overarching idea was good, but it wasn't getting me closer to my actual goal, which was to build strength. And the irony in where you've got to know where you're going, right? I want sustainable energy, but then I do actually need some goals, is that my daily practices, Ben, were getting me sustainable energy, but it wasn't getting me to the next goal, which was building strength. And here's why, is because the minute I decided that that's what I was going to do, I had to change what I was doing, which meant I had to do the hard things. Right? What we're wanting is on the other side of the things that we're avoiding. So I had to do pull-ups, I had to do push-ups, I had to do sit-ups, I had to do squats. And for 90 days, I told myself 90 days I'm going to do this. And I hated every minute. Do you know why? Because I saw zero results in those 90 days. You don't really see anything. You're like, I'm killing myself. I don't even like these things. So I got to look up and go, well, it's got to be sustainable. So I'm not going to max out 7 days a week. So it's got to be sustainable. And that's the goal, though. So keep going until you hit goal. Once I got past that threshold, you start seeing the results. It starts working. Now, all of a sudden, you go, oh, I don't know that I hate it. I'm seeing the results. It builds the faith to keep going. So I think that there's this thing in all of us that we need something bigger than this life to live for. We need some sort of a micro goal that's going to force our character.
Got it.
Does that make sense? Like right now, characters, we're being squeezed right now. And what I'd like to propose that nobody wants to hear is it's just revealing your character. It's revealing what's been there all along. It was masked by a high. Well, now it's squeezing us. So if anger is coming up, it's time to deal. If anxiety is coming up, it's time to deal. If the fact that you don't trust people, God, the market, the industry, it's time to go to work. It's inconvenient. It's not efficient. But it's the best thing as people that we could do. If we want to be incredible humans for the long haul, that's the next piece of the puzzle that you got to do. It's the work that has to be done.
I think that's really well said, and I think I'm going to stop this right here, folks, and you need to rewind and you need to listen to that last part a few times in order to ingrain it. I know I certainly will. But Julia, I want to go a different angle here. I've been asking people a lot about their routines lately. I just want to there's one that you're consistently putting up on social. If anybody doesn't follow Julia on social, obviously there's plenty of episodes you can go back and find the social tag, but we'll make sure it's in this one as well, is that it's good to watch the stories. I like the stories because first of all, you've got somebody that's building a business. I think that that's really great to watch. I think that, watching all of the events and everything that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, but it's also looking at your routine that you've got at the moment, like where you're waking up at 4:30 in the morning, you're like sort of having your own time. And I only know this basically, people think, oh, you and Julia talk a lot. Yes, we do. But ultimately it's still that I only know this from social. Then there's this, I don't know, it looks like Smurf piss that you drink. I don't know, it's so weird. Okay.
That's the first I've heard it called. I'm going to now look at it differently every morning. You've ruined my morning routine.
I don't know. All I can say is Papa Smurf, after a big night out.
Oh my God.
Okay. And then, like give me an idea of what your routine looks like when you've got to manage and you've got to juggle, the 5 kids. You've got to obviously then you've got your team, and your team, with all due respect to them, they are self-sustainable, but they still need direction from you. They're not at the point, your company is not at the size yet where it is self-sustaining and self-momenting. Okay. Give us an idea of what, a week looks like, a day looks like in the life of Julia Gentry.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was this crossroads moment for me too, Ben, that it started to feel like, and I've said this before, but we all want the blessing, but we don't realize that the blessing is so heavy. So the character development that we just landed on, that's all part of the process, because when you get to the goal, you realize that the blessing that you were after is actually really heavy. And so I hit this point that we had started to staff up, and I had 5 kids, and we made a huge move, and we're putting chips on the table in regards to what we're investing into the business and where we're going. And I was like, I can't do this. I mean, there was a couple days that I was like, uh-oh, like, oh no, like going through all the work, and is this true? And what have I been saying? I mean, it was really kind of one of those moments that I had to sit and consider. And I did exactly what I'm telling everybody. As I said, I decided to do the hard well, and I started to count the cost. And so I said, instead of trying to change the world around me, I said, what do I have to do about the world within me? And so I started studying some lives. I hired my own coach, and I was like, what do I need to do? And I swear the only thing that I changed is I started getting up 2 hours earlier. So I got up at 4:30. This is when I had my 5th baby. So this is just when she's still up a couple of times, but I figured out a way. I get up at 4:30. I do have my Smurf pee, right? It's my blue drink that is actually designed specifically for my brain needs. So I hit a point that all of this pressure was creating this flipping of my brain. So I was feeling very scattered. I was present, but not here. And I started to notice that a lack of focus. And instead of popping a pill or eating more sugar or drinking more coffee, I got with my nutritionist and I said, what is my body actually trying to tell me?
I'm going to try and pry this out of you, because I just want everybody to know what your response was to me when I asked you what it was. Julia said to me, you don't pay me enough to tell you. I'm like, holy shit. That's a great response. So that's awesome. Good. So are you going to tell us on the podcast or
I
no?
Will. I'll tell you. Okay, great. So it is Ginloba. It's Brain Glow. It's I can see them all in my head. Oh, I'm not going to be able to even.
No. But just while you're thinking about it, is it? Are they all available on Amazon, or where do people get them?
There's 3 of them that are available on Amazon.
Okay, so what is it again?
I'll put them in the show notes. I'm truly not going to be able to remember all these. It's Genloba, Brain Glow. I can't. I'll put them in the show. We'll put them in the show.
Okay, cool. But anyway,
So,
all you need to know is that someone's going to be looking at you if you're drinking this stuff, being like, "What is that?"
every morning. So I drink that literally every morning. While I'm drinking that, I spend probably 10 minutes in full gratitude moment. I never did this before. Everybody who's ever said, write gratitude, I was like, that's the stupidest thing. I'm already thankful for what I'm thankful for. I don't need to sit and do this. But what was happening is that most of us, especially if you're drivers, it's so challenging to sit, like we don't feel. We're just going a million miles an hour, that we're not sitting and reflecting. And so I actually had to sit down and not just write what I'm thankful for. I had to feel what I'm thankful for.
Can I push on that for a second? Just double click. Is that, did you learn to do it from somebody or from a book or from a podcast or the whole gratitude thing? Because it's something that I'm interested in doing, but I just don't know where to start. Yeah.
Yeah, I will, and I'll send it to you. So we're creating our second edition of my journal. It comes out at conference.
Okay.
My journal walks you through a 5-minute morning. I take 2 hours. My mornings are 2 hours. So some people are like, I don't have 2 hours in the morning. Well, you have more than you think if you get up earlier, number one. But I give everyone in my journal 5-minute prompts that walks you through the exact same thing that I'm walking you through right now on a piece of paper. So you can't, it's silly, stupid. You can't mess it up. Okay. So you do your morning gratitude. It's about 10 minutes that I do of just thankful, but you got to feel what you're thankful for. And some mornings, Ben, I get up and I hate this. I hate this because I was up and I'm instantly kind of in this weird zone, and I'll sit down and I'll go, oh, it's quiet. I love the quiet. I'm so grateful for the quiet. And then you go, this Smurf pee, it's not horrible. I love this. And then you'll hear the rain. And then all of a sudden you'll go, oh, that conversation I had yesterday, I'm thankful for that. I'm going to bed early. And then but you got to sit and you got to think about it.
So it starts pretty simplistic. Like it's like
super simple.
Because like I know the first thing that I'd be thankful for, because I don't sleep well and I'm really trying to perfect that at the moment. So if I had a good night's sleep, that'd be the first thing that goes down.
Yes. It's so simple, and you've got to sit and you've got to feel it, and you've got to honor what it's actually doing in your body. It's getting, especially some of us who are in fight or flight, or we're the doers, or we're not the feelers, or we're the over feelers, which is basically every single human on the planet. I've got to get back into my body. I've got to get very present within me. Once I do that, then I shift into closing my eyes, and it's just the visualization. And that's when I connect to, where am I going? Not what's happening, and this is hard, and I don't know if I want to do this. I close my eyes and I will actually visualize where I'm going and why I'm going there.
Okay.
If I get myself to do that, then again, I'm connecting my neural pathways and my emotions with true north, right? Then what I do is I talk about dream stacking. So dream stacking is from that picture. I start to embody, all right, this is who I am and this is where I'm going. What are 3 things that woman would do today based upon where she's going? And those tend to be big things. Those are the processes or the chapter or the process, the strategic plan, or those are the big items that in theory, once you and I get started in our day, don't come and find us.
No.
So these are the things that if I do them, 1 more push-up, 1 more chapter, 10 more calls, if I do them, I get closer to where I want to be. So we have to create, I call it the dream zone, where for about an hour to 90 minutes a day, I have completely uninterrupted time to do the hard thing. So in my morning, this is why I've extended the time, because I take a minimum of 90 minutes. And this is where I write. This is where I build, right, the training system for my team. This is where I review documents from my team. This is where after about 9 o'clock, it's not going to get done. Because I have homeschool with the kids. I've got phone calls I got to make. I've got meetings I got to get on. So I have set time.
That's right. I forgot to mention that you also homeschool the kids. Jesus.
I homeschool. I have 5 children and I homeschool 3.
So that's, it's funny. Like, I think that there's a couple of reasons. Is that I think that there's I've thought about doing a podcast where it's just life hacks, because people are people are looking for the easy way of things. They're looking for a different solution and whatever. And I've got to be honest, I'm really diving into that at the moment. I'm like, okay, how can we improve things differently and incrementally through other things outside of just, your mental thought? But the part of this that then is also surrounding yourself with people where their threshold is so much higher than what yours is. And I think you just add the 5 kids to the notion, and that helps me.
Our ongoing joke within our dreamer community is I'll just turn and go, you're welcome, because it's like, God, everything that I tell people, I'm like, oh yeah, and then by the way, I have 5 kids, and then people go, okay, fine, I'll do it. It's like, I'll say it and I make it look like it's so easy to do. And I go, by the way, if I can do this with 5 kids, so can
I've
you.
figured out why you've had them now. Not only the joy and the love and all that type of that bullshit, okay? It's the proof of concept.
It's the
Okay?
proof of
The
concept. If
proof
I
of
can do
concept.
it, so can you.
Yeah.
I swear. So I'm saying all this because here's what I need to. So after that, you close up shop, and then I create my to-do list because there's the chatter. There's a crap. There's all these other things that I got to do, and then you close up shop, and your dream zone is now done. Here's the thing you have to understand. This is not sexy. It is not glamorous, and oftentimes it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere. In the book, The 5 a.m. Club, it talks about this 66-day formula, and the 66-day formula is it's the threshold of the amount of days that you have to get through in order to start to see progress. Most of us will start a morning routine. You'll love it for day 14, then you'll hate it. You won't see any results. You'll be tired, flustered. It's not working, so you'll quit. And then you'll be mad at everybody and anybody who sold you the bill of goods and the t-shirt and the hat, and only to realize that you actually didn't cross the 66-day threshold. Or people do cross that 66-day threshold and it works so well, they stop doing it. And then they look back and they go find another one. And then they go find another one. And it's like we make it harder or more complicated when at some level, if you're going to do this and you want results and you expect results, you are not only, one, you have to know you got to do it for 66 days, but then you do, people ask me all the time, well, are you just going to stop now? Never. That was never my starting point. When I start this, I will never stop this. Why?
So
Because
that was going to be a question. Weekends?
Oh, yeah. The only day I don't is Sunday, and that's my time. That's our family's just Sabbath day. So
Okay.
we turn off phones. We don't, I mean, we're not doing any of that same thing. So Sunday is the only day the kids get to sleep. And we have 5 kids sleep around our bed, all over our bed. We have a big slumber party. We turn off our phones. That's our day as a family. But every other day I run that same routine.
Okay. Is it, I still don't like exercise, right? And it is still a challenge every single morning for me to walk my ass out to the gym. And does this feel like work, doing this every morning?
I think 85% of the time, no.
Okay.
Because I love it. I mean, it did at first. So in those 66 days, yes, there was more often than not days that I was really frustrated and I didn't like it and I had to deal with the demons that came along with it. But now I love it. I mean, it's very, very fewer days than not that I love it. Oftentimes what I also want us to know, Ben, is that, you know, the point of working out, you're not growing your muscle when you're working out, you're stressing your muscle. Growth happens when we rest. So the caveat to this is that those who are pushing or we're overworking out is that we're not actually allowing ourselves to grow from rest.
That's a good point.
Or people are resting too long. And so you're actually not growing anymore. You're dying. And so it's like you've either got the one or the other. And so I guess I'm talking to those who are pushing, or working out 7 days a week or going. And you're like, that's fine, but that's stress. So your growth happens in rest, in
It's
surrender.
so good. That's such a good point to make. I just got the Whoop thing and I've been doing it for like, I don't know, 2 weeks now. And the reason I did, one, because I really wanted to understand my sleep and I wanted to make a commitment to getting better sleep, and it's helping me with that. Like I've got an eye mask now. It talks about breathing things that you shouldn't be breathing through your mouth. It's only through your nose. So weirdly, I'm taping my mouth a little bit at night, you know, just as a breathing exercise to make sure that I'm not doing that and I'm sleeping way better and blah, 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 blah. But then the other part that is really interesting that I didn't think of, if I hop into the gym, like one, it takes me forever to get out there, right? I'm in the morning, I'm up, you know, just I fart around like like an old lady.
You need my morning routine.
I know. And then I get out there, I've got like, that's the benefit to having a job is that I've got to get in the office by a specific time or I've got to get to an appointment at a specific time. So I have to get out there by a specific time. And so I get out there and then I'm just balls to the wall. Like I will just go 100% every single day. And this has a strain coach, right? Where it tells you whether you're over or under your strain for the day. And like I've been, because I haven't slept well for the last 2 nights, my recovery is in the red, which is really bad. I haven't really ever had it in the red. And it's saying, no, don't work out today. I'm like, fuck you. I'm going to feel like a piece of shit if I don't work out. And then it's like, so I did yesterday. I still did. I just like, nah, whatever. I still did. And then it sent me a message and it's like, you will not lose weight. You do not grow your muscles. You do not do like it. Just give me all these things that it's like you overworking you've literally just wasted your time. Well played.
100%.
And I'm
It's
like,
so true. That's so true though. I mean, so you've got to think that we've got to live till failure because it produces the stress that's needed, but your growth happens in rest.
Yep.
So rest for people could look like surrender, trust, right? Like giving space, creating margin. Like then if you notice, watch the days that you do rest, the next day you're even more powerful and efficient with your time. Why? Because you gave your body, your mind, your spirit the ability to rest, which gave it the opportunity to grow so you can continue to do the hard well. That's going to be imperative in the years to come. If we overtrain, you're going to lose. If you undertrain, you're going to lose.
love this episode. Good.
Love you.
Love you. Mutual Admiration Society. People are probably sitting on the other end.
I'll text you my morning. I can't really give out my whole morning. That gives the whole thing away. I'll text it to you.
Yeah. You keep some secret sauce there. I'm the type of person that over tells people what I do. So thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the growth coach herself, the next Tony Robbins, Julia Gentry, on my podcast first. So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.